Hey guys, welcome to another one of our videos. I'm the Worm, this is the Proton. Today is going to be kind of like a rewick for the RSST, but Geni tanks in general.
Bit of a random one.
Mr. Proton's going to be rewicking this with his personalised technique that he's using, so...
It is what it is. Yeah, the reason behind this is a lot of guys on Facebook in particular have been mentioning sort of struggling to rewick the RSST and Geni tanks in general, and we haven't ever actually rewicked a Geni tank on camera. We used to find them as difficult as everyone else is going to. Do you know what I mean? You do get there in the end if you persist with it. You do get there. So we thought we'd do a little rewick of the RSST just to show people what we find helps to aid wicking and whatever else with a little sort of technique, and also just to show people how we do it in general. Maybe you can give it a go our way and see if you have any more luck with it than you have been, basically. So we're going to throw it down on the table, show you exactly what we'll do to rewick the RSST.
Do it through the table. It's just because obviously we was heating up mesh and we didn't want to burn any kind of fabric or anything, so it is on a wooden table. Just
not that it matters.
Get with it.
Indeed. But yeah, so we're going to throw it down on the table, we'll have a rewick and we'll see how it goes, and then we'll come back up and do a bit of flapping as per the norm. Right guys, this is, well, going to be an attempt at rewicking the RSST in my own unique way. So a few particulars. First of all, I'm starting, so I don't have to go through this later. 28 gauge Canthol, and this is 500 grade mesh cut to 35 by 58. There was no precise measurement. I don't know if that's going to be the right size for this, but that's what I'm doing because that's how I roll. It looked about right. So what I will start off doing usually, and I'm going to need some pliers for this now. I don't oxidize this typically the way that people are told to oxidize this. I tend to use a pulse method, so that is what I'm going to do. So what I do to prep for that, I literally grab my bit of stainless steel. Excuse the fact this is not a blowtorch, this is a, well, it's kind of a gas powered something or other, but no blowtorch available at the minute. Basically what I'll do is concentrate on the edges. You can see the bits lighting up more than others. They are going to be what's causing you hot spots in the long run. So I just flame the edges. Okay, I do cut these with scissors, so it does eliminate the chance of it, but it's still worth giving it a flame anyway, just because of obviously machining, chemicals and God knows what else. So I'm going to concentrate and do that. I only do it once, I don't do it hundreds of times. It's literally just a once. Oh, I'm missing, hello. It's literally just a once over, until basically the whole thing changes colour, which you can see. The only reason I'm doing the middle, like I say, is just for machining oils and whatever else that may be on here, machine residue. It's the edges that you want to concentrate on, so I get the middle out of the way with, which will give you basically that. This thing always likes to be a pain in the arse when lighting. Just get a little run over, but basically I like to concentrate on the edges, try and get rid of the bits that are lighting up. You can see the frayed edges, and then obviously flip it round and do the little bit that I've just neglected in the corner. Where they are. Okay, this actually looks like a fairly decent bit because it's been cut by a pair of scissors. Now that is all I do to that. What I will then do, it depends on how you want to do this, guys, and what you want to do. Where are my scissors? What I do to make my life a bit easier: grab an edge, fold it over very slightly. Okay. Just like that. Alright, that is going to be your outside roll, so we're going to roll from this end. To make rolling a bit easier, because starting off can be a pain, what I tend to do is grab some scissors, bladed scissors. If you're used to sort of ribbon twisting and stuff, then you'll be used to this, but just run it along the scissors and it will start some kind of roll off for you. That went atrociously well because I ended off on the corner, but that's what I'll do. I'll give it a loose roll, just something like that, so it's obviously miles too big at the minute. What I use, and I find it's been the most successful thing for me to use, is a 1.5mm drill bit. I will then stick that in the middle and I'll just roll. Obviously one way is going to tighten it, one way is going to loosen it. I will just keep rolling until I think it's tight enough, basically. Now how tight that is, generally I gauge by the wick hole. The RSST has got a generous wick hole, which is what I'm rewicking, so that is what I'll do, but just literally from the middle out. Where is the RSST top? There it is. We'll size that up. We're pretty much perfect. It's in there, but it's not catching too much. Hopefully you can make that out, guys.
It's a little bit loosey-goosey.
A little bit loosey-goosey. The worm is here.
I am here. I'm just kind of doing things with the computer and stuff
and things. Now, this is where I will differ from some people. I'll put my RSST together quickly. Tank section. That's all I'm going to worry about in a minute. Most people will stick their wick in like that, la 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 la, screw it down, put your wick in and work from there. I don't do that. Okay, this is just the way that I do it. I am slightly weird, and that's just how I roll. What I'll tend to do is pull my drill bit half out so it's still in there, giving me some rigidity. I will then take my scissors and I will go down the length of the wick and I will cut it. I know a lot of people do sort of 45 degrees and whatever else to help aid wicking. I don't. I cut up the vertical, and I cut up by about, say, 1 centimetre. I will then flip it, clamp those back together, and cut up by about another centimetre. Alright, like that. Then I will fan it out. Okay, that is what I'm left with. Like that, guys. That is what I do. Then, as opposed to doing it your traditional way, putting it all together, I will put this section in the tank there. I will then grab this middle section, hopefully, there we go, and poke the wick through that. And now I will assemble my tank. Okay, that is the way that I do it. Alright, I can tell you straight away that wick's going to be too long, so I am going to cut that down now, just a bit there, because obviously you can put it up, but you don't want to compress it down. The advantage of the RSST is, one, it's got an insulated wick hole, so pulsing method's a lot easier, and two, it's got a polycarbonate bottom to the tank. It's not got a metal bottom, so shorting out and creating problems is a bit easy, or a bit easier to deal with. Now, what we'll do is we'll put our post in. Now, this is something I wanted to point out with the RSST. Most guys will go to there. Alright, I keep going. I go to about there, okay, because most of my devices will take the slack. As you can see, I'm happy with that wick size. I know it's slightly bigger than the post, but the RSST's got plenty of room and that's got a little bit of movement in it anyway. But what I will do is loosen this back off, because trying to clamp that wire underneath that spring there, whilst you've got it fully tightened to the tightness that I like it, the tension I like it, it's very difficult to trap the wire under it. So that is what I do. I loosen it up and then I tighten it afterwards, and it also helps pull the wick into the post slightly. I'm just going to get my super duper screwdriver, loosen off my negative, and again, this is just how I do it, guys. Find your own path if that's what you choose to do. If you want to try this way, then feel free. I will then put that under the negative and I'll pull it like that. Okay, I don't know if you can make that out, guys. Hopefully you can. I go between the wick and the positive post. Alright, I'll then screw it down. That's your negative sorted. I'll just leave this here for now. Then I'll bring it back around. I tend to use an Allen key at this point. It's not quite as thick as my drill bit, but it has got that edge to it there, so I'm not going to lose it in the tank. I'm going to go for 4 wraps on this one. Semi-tight, not ridiculously tight, but semi-tight. I have pre-flamed this, so it will hold its shape a wee bit better than if I hadn't done that. And I will then pull that in and pull her over. Right, I'll remove my Allen key, because if I don't, I'll end up pulsing it and burning myself. I'm actually going to pull the wick away from the positive slightly, which is not what you usually do. Well, it's uncommon clamped anyway, because it's not tight enough. Now I will tighten down my positive to the tension that I like it. I'm going to have to adjust my top coil because it's going to be too high, but about there, and I will pull this now in tight. It's actually not too bad. What I will do now is, again, play with my screwdriver that likes to mess me around, find my little flathead bit, and just space those coils out ever so slightly, put them down. If you've oxidised this wick in the normal fashion, then you might not want to use something metal to adjust your coils, because it's going to remove some of the oxidisation you've just built up by dunking it in water and quenching it and so on and so forth. So just be aware of that, guys. I'm actually going to remove these wires now. That's the negative gone. I always use clippers. I try and pull this round as much as possible just in case it does jump out. It gives me a bit of something to grab hold of, and remove the positive. Snip that over there. That there. Hopefully you can make that out, guys. Focus. Damn you. There you go. That's what I've ended up with so far. Then once I've got myself a bit organised and stopped fanning around, found my mod. Can you see my mod? I don't want that mod. I want this mod. Right, I'm going to get the KTS. Depending on what resistance you're going for, guys, I'm going for a lowish one, but not stupidly low. 4 reps of 28. I'm going to guess it's. Actually, I'll test that now before I pulse it. The Minge is just going to pass me the SVD. We'll give it a quick test. Be careful, guys, with the way that I've done this. If you get it to a point where it's touching like that, keep going, and you're going to undo that positive leg. That's the downside of doing it my way. I'll just turn the SVD off. We're back on. Now I'm guessing around sort of 0.9 to 1.2 ohms, depending on the thickness of wick. It's going to change it. Does that say 2.1 ohms? Really? 1.9 ohms. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put some power through it.
Power through it first, just to. Sometimes, guys, when you are re-wicking, the first time, if you don't actually activate it a few times, it gives you a false ohms reading.
What is going on here? You know, that thing is bloody useless. Do you know what, guys? I'm not even going to bother. I'm just going to go for it. Alright, I'll test the ohms after I've finished. Pulse method is going to short and stuff anyway. Now, this is what I do. I'll pulse it. Okay, you can see the bottom getting hot, and if basically what you do is just keep pulsing. The top one's starting to come around slightly. Hopefully you can make that out. Obviously far too hot at the minute. And you just literally keep pulsing and tinkering. Alright, it's better to do this with a flat battery, to be honest with you, which I'm not doing. Mine's at about 3.7 volts, 3.8 volts, maybe slightly higher, purely because all of my batteries are charged. So I'm working with what I've got. If you do it with a full one and it goes wrong, you may pop a coil. Alright, so just bear that in mind. Now, it isn't a case of just... when I first see the pulse method, I was getting my coils, just sitting there pulsing, and hoping things happened. I found it's as much about slightly tweaking the coils as it is pulsing them. Okay, now you can see the pulse is starting to make its way around, and I can risk holding it down slightly longer, but I'm going to tweak a bit more. Let's see what we end up with. It only takes a little touch, and you never know, you might get lucky. I'm getting there. It's moving towards the right direction. I don't know if you can see the middle one starting to light. They're just nowhere near as bright. Just
bear in mind, guys, with this pulse method, it can be as simple as doing it in 2 minutes, or it can take like 20.
I've never had it take more than about 4 or 5 minutes, but then I've never sat there and timed it, if I'm honest with you. Right, we're now starting to get an even glow. The top and the bottom are still fractionally hotter, but we are starting to get an even glow, so we can afford to hold it down a bit more. Ignore the noises in the background, it's just Worm's phone. We can afford to hold it down slightly more now and get some oxidisation built up, because what you're doing is you're building oxidisation on that wick. As you pulse, the heat from it is causing oxidisation. So I think we're going to need another little tinker. Right, now hopefully you can make that out, guys. They look pretty spot on to me. What are you saying, Mr. Worm?
They're getting there. They are definitely getting there.
So pessimistic, isn't he? The hot one, the top one does look slightly hot still, doesn't it?
It is slightly too hot, yeah.
Now, I mean, using an RSST is easier.
That looks better.
That looks better, doesn't it? The bottom one now looks slightly cooler, but using an RSST is easier because you've got an insulated wick hole. It's not going to short on the wick hole. I mean, the mesh is where your shorts are going to be, but folding that wick over to start with does help. Made it worse. Son of a bee arch. I've Bubblers on the Facebook group, who is from vapors.com.my. He actually said it best. Think of it in terms of dripping water. Okay, so at the minute you're lighting it up and it flows down from the top, and everything's kind of, well, it's actually sorted itself out, hasn't it? Okay, but if you've got sort of down to here lighting at some, and then here is lower, the bottom two is lower, then chances are it's your third one. With the RSST, because it's an insulated wick hole, the power comes top and bottom. If you're using an Argo or something, it doesn't. But keep pulsing, keep tinkering, and you will get it, guys. It's not stupidly difficult. That top one is now hotter again, but this can be just oxidisation. See, now it's sort of fired up with air. Alright, that is what I do to Rewicking RSST. Bear in mind, I've got the cone fair fan thing going on at the bottom. So I find it aids wicking. It's just more surface area in that tank to gather the juice. The wick is, hopefully again you can make that out, nice and thick. It's got a little hole in it. Again, the more wick, it aids juice. I will now try and test the ohms on this thing again and see whether we can come up with something. There's always hope. On. Helps turn it on, guys, just so you are aware. And what does that say to me? 0.7. Well, I'm not going to lie, guys, I was aiming for a little bit higher than that, but this is where I like to be usually. I was just going higher because I'm on video. That is where I typically like to be, around 0.5, 0.8 ohms with a Jenny tank. I find 500 works better, and I find with setup right, you haven't got to do a Jenny tilt. We will find out if this is the right setup in a minute. What I'll do quickly,
test it with some juice.
I will test it with some of Dan's vanilla custard. What I'll do is just plonk a bit on the wick, allow that to soak in, and I'll have a little fire, and then I'll fill the tank and we'll come up to us.
This is just, guys, just make sure that hot leg is not hot legging when there's actually juice on the actual wick, which it doesn't seem to be.
No, we are spot on. So now it's just a simple case. I mean, guys, one other thing, the silicone bung that goes in that hole you look in there, I don't use it, primarily because I lost it. But even if I did have it, I would take it out. Having this fill hole without that silicone bung in it aids wicking quite a lot. I've literally filled that up now. You give it a couple of minutes for the older capillary action to take that juice up into the wick, but I'd imagine we're fairly there. And we just plonk the top on and we should be able to have a lovely little vape. So we'll go back up to us now and we'll have a vape. That is how I rewick my RSST.
Hi guys, welcome back up. That was obviously Mr. Proton's technique in rewicking the RSST and pretty much how he kind of goes about Jenny tanks in general.
Yeah, I mean, as we pointed out in the close-up, with certain other tanks like your Argus and anything UD, pretty much, you haven't got the insulated wick hole. There's not many Jennies that do. And that means that when you're pulsing, you're only going to get the power feed from the top and it's going to go all the way down to the bottom. With the RSST, you kind of get both ends and it meets in the middle. It does make pulsing a little bit easier, but it is still more than possible on all the other Jenny tanks.
You did it the other day, didn't you?
Yeah,
the
UD AGI. I've done it on the Arga T2, which is now broken. Bloody centre pin. Yeah, done it on quite a few tanks, and it does seem to work. The amount of time that we used to spend oxidising mesh, flaming it, quench it, flame it, quench it, flame it, quench it, and then put liquid on it, burn it, liquid on it, burn it, and then you'd still get the hotspotting issue anyway. But a few of the things that I found just to eliminate some of them issues is one, flaming the edges really severely. Two, cutting it with scissors, clean cut helps. Folding it over on the end when you wrap, so you've got a bit of folded that you're wrapping your core around as opposed to the end, which will have the scraggly bits if there are any left. And just the pulsed method. I mean, you saw how long it took me to pulse that and get it in. It took, what, 4 or 5 minutes to roll it, get it in and get it to the point where it's firing quite well. It takes a lot longer, in my opinion, to get water, blowtorch, on off, burn it, liquid, all that kind of stuff, and then have to deal with the hotspots once it's in anyway. This way you kind of 2 birds in 1 stone in it. I mean, the
little light, or kind of cooker lighter we've got is a little bit hotter than your average lighter, but you can do this with a lighter. We've done it before we used that thing, and it works the same.
It is possible. So if you haven't got a blowtorch, you can still do it. It's just going to take you longer. Had a blowtorch, then that really would have been about a minute quicker because it's done. Yeah. Makes it a bit easier. I think I did mention that I pre-flamed that can though. That does help. I've tried it with and without pre-flaming. And when you do it without, you kind of wrap your coil and it tends to spring back slightly, giving you that looser connect around the wick.
There is one other technique as well with the oxidising the mesh as well. You can get a piece of Rizzler. Just make sure it's only 1 sliver thick. Don't like wrap it around several times. Literally, you just want to wrap it around once and then cut it. Then wrap your coil around that and then do the pulse method with that, and that also oxidises it just a slight bit quicker. And it seems to be.
You blow it off, then you.
Yeah, you blow it off, and it does seem to be a little bit more even quicker. But you get there in the end with the pulse method. It's just like another couple of minutes of pulsing.
I personally haven't tried the Rizzler method. I know Worm has. I know how it works. The carbon helps build up oxidation. Personally, for me though, I'm having to blow the wick and all that kind of stuff. and it would take me longer to fiddle about and cut a Rizzler than it would to just wrap the coil in and pulse it, to be honest with you.
But if you are having issues with the pulsing method, especially with the UD tanks, try the Rizzler. That's what I used on the UD tank, and it worked pretty much first time.
It's worth giving all of these methods a go. We haven't done one on the Rizzler method, maybe Worm will do one, but they are out there. I know that Scott's done one, so it's worth trying them all and finding your most cut. Personally, I think you prefer the Rizzler method, didn't you?
With my UD tanks, yes, because it hasn't got that insulated ring. It does seem to, the pulse method it can still be done. It just takes a little bit longer than it does with the
RSST insulated wick.
Yeah.
With me, though, so I still prefer, even with the UD tanks, I still prefer the pulse method. I find I'm more comfortable with it. But that's what this is about, guys. You find what's comfortable for you. We're just showing you how we do it. Hopefully it helps, even if you don't choose to do it the way that we did. Hopefully something in there. I mean, the fanning of the wick at the bottom, I do tend to try and get 4 cuts in it, so it's fan that 8 ways, but it fans out just fine with 4. But I have found that I know you've got to feed it from the bottom, and once it's in, you can't pull it out and put it back in and whatever else if you need to, which you will get to the hang of doing if you do it a few times. First couple of times you'll try and pull it out and you'll be like bollocks, or you'll fan it and then try and stick it in from the top and be like bollocks. But I found that really helps aid wicking. 500 mesh for me has been a bit more successful. You just have to make sure there's plenty of it. I've got a nice thick wick in here, not choking. It's flowing in and out quite nicely, but it's enough to not be just turning, leaking juice everywhere. That is how it is. I've got this on. I've got this on 19. Playing around with this today. Flashed it off. I think it looks like bollocks. Those on Facebook have already seen that. And it's been vaped what, 5-10 minutes?
Yeah.
I should point out, I've drilled up the wick hole on this RSST to 2.5 mil, so for most of you it's going to be far too airy, but for me I love it.
He did have to reposition the positive coil at the top as well because it fell out, but that was just I think when he knocked it, when he pushed it onto his thing, so he's obviously took that screw down too far, or took his centre pin on, which he's got adjustable on the Skelly 19, took it up too far and he's just pushed it out and allowed it to have a little bit of slack and come slightly loose, giving him a slight hot coil, but it literally all he did was unscrew it again and slightly, pull it in tight and a little tighten up again, and it was working perfectly again.
I mean, if you remember from the video that you just see, I did say that I'm going to wrap that all the way around and leave it as close to the wick after going around as possible, because if it does come out, you then have enough room to get your needle nose on it and pull it back in. That's exactly why I do that, for experience. It's happened before. I've cut it too short and had to wrap a complete new coil because it's been a pain in my arse.
Yeah.
And that leaving the screw at the bottom, although if your devices aren't adjustable in terms of centre pin, it can be a pain because you're either loosening or tightening that positive connection. I find that it's the lesser of two evils, for me anyway, because I hate it when, I know we mentioned it in the KTS review we did the other day, where basically the pin was sticking in slightly, and where it's got a slightly narrower internal 510 I think, and some of the mods will have bigger centre pins, it will make connection with the negative of the mod as well as the positive, and it just shorts it and it can lead to hot buttons burning and just in general bad stuff.
Yeah.
Bear in mind with all Genisis, so guys, your coils are going to take a while to bed in. They do. Some will take, I've noticed, 2 minutes, some will take 20, some will take an hour, but you do sort of vape it and that's it, done. That's how it is. With the Geni tanks as well, obviously you've got to bear in mind that this coil is probably going to last me 2 or 3 weeks now. So yes, it's a pain in the arse compared to rewicking a silica dripper like the Zeus, which we're doing 4 or 5 minutes. It takes 3 or 4 times longer than that, but the coil will last, for me anyway, in the Zeus, 2-3 days tops. In this, 2-3 weeks. So it's quite a considerable difference, but it is vaping like a bloody champ. Love it.
But yeah, is there anything more we want to go through on this video? That was pretty much it for this one, isn't it? Him and his clouds. But yeah, I think that's it for this RSST. We are going to do another video coming up after this with telling you about coils and batteries, and just telling you about all amp limits and all kind of stuff with all different batteries.
Safe vaping mainly with mechanical mods with no protection and batteries. Basically, we are going to do that because I think it was Ant on the Facebook group yesterday said that he'd got himself a tank. I can't remember exactly what it was. I think he was talking about getting the RSST or a dual coil tank and running the lower ohm coils, and asked him what batteries he was using, and basically asked how he would calculate whether his batteries are safe. I mean, the first step is obviously to find out what amp your batteries are. Make sure you know that, guys, alright, because that's going to be relevant in the video. You can usually find out fairly quickly with a quick
We can tell you some
Google
of the mainly
search.
bigger ones. But
yeah, we can tell you some of them, but I mean, it's always nice to know when buying them, to be honest with you guys.
I mean,
especially
Trustfire is 3 amp.
Trustfire, they can be anything. The cells in them are never reliable.
No.
Just anything with fire in, stay away from them. But E-fests are 5, AWs are 10. Not all of them, but most of them are 10. Again, but AW batteries are very popular. It will not be hard to find out what ones you've got in the amp limit on them. Your typical Panasonic's 10, but you can get 30 amps. Your MNKE's at 30.
5 amps as well, can't you?
I can't remember. I know most of the Panas I've seen are 10s, but then we didn't tend to look at a 10 amp minimum battery.
Yeah, I think all of ours are pretty much 10 except for a few E-fests we got.
Yeah, I've got a couple of E-fests that are 5, and that's actually all I've got is E-fests and Panasonics.
Yeah,
that's all I own.
What's this one? Does it sound it?
That's like your E-fest.
Yeah, that's my E-fest. Doesn't say, but it is one of the higher mile ones, so I'd assume it would be like 10. But we'll find out for that video anyway.
We'll probably won't, but to be honest with you guys, it's always worth finding out what you're buying. If you don't know, if they haven't got a list on site, message them. If they don't know, they should. Simple as that. But that was the RSST Rewick video and sort of how we go about Jenny tanks in general. Hopefully this is helpful to a few of you. I think we're going to end.
Yeah, I think we are.
We are going to end. We're not reviewing a product, we just wanted to show you how we do it. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I've been Mr. Proton, this has been The Worm.
See you soon.